Hi, everyone. And I want to thank you, all three of you, for being such great participants in this course. You really, um, I don't know, being good sports in going along with the various parts of the course and um, truly looking at the impact of them on you and responding authentically. It's a tremendous joy to go through it all with you. And so I hope you're having as good a time as I am in going through this course. But to this week, well, the next couple of weeks are really about looking at the current scientific worldview to the degree that we can know what that is actually. And I do believe that there is such a thing as the scientific worldview. But that worldview does not reflect the very latest science, even science from the last 100 years. That when I say the latest science, so so that and in essence, we have not known what to do with the new sciences, especially the new physics um, and cosmology. We haven't known what kind of a worldview to have, and I feel like it's coming. The advances in physics are taking us down such a kind of rabbit hole that we're actually collectively starting to think about um, the meaning of science and what the worldview should be again. And I think there's been a long period of time where we haven't really sort of thought or examined. We've just assumed. Um, but so um, so not knowing what to not knowing what kind of a worldview, what kind of conclusions to draw from the new physics and cosmology, um, leaves us with a kind of in a kind of in between worlds. And I think Leanne used the phrase "no man's land." I think it's not a bad place to be, actually, no man's land. And so I, I'm an advocate for no man's land. That's if no man's land is it, then let's be in no man's land and see from that perspective what things look like. And this really relates to the living the question thing. And um, I wanted to say, I tried to design this course, and it was challenging for me without a kind of agenda. So, except for the agenda to kind of provoke in a kind of way, to question assumptions and to provoke thinking. Um, and as we've been going through this time, I realize that I do have an agenda, and it's not one specific viewpoint or another. It's this perspective of living in the question, this, to live in the question. And what I find when I go through this course is that many people have already decided on answers and don't have the capacity to question their point of view. They don't have the capacity to get out of a point of view and live in the question. And I'm not saying that about you guys at all, but I wanted the course to try and invite that point of view, that we could live in this question. We don't have to jump necessarily onto a bandwagon of one perspective or another. So that I think was my agenda. This week is sort of presenting in the best way that I could in 2 weeks the new science. I had to do it in a popularist kind of way, so I'm sorry to foist Brian Greene on you, but that's what I'm doing. And his sort of um, uh, effort to communicate quantum theory to the public. So that's in there, and a number of other things too. And then the following week, the scientific creation story that has come out of the new cosmology, basically. And that includes inflationary cosmology and all these other things. And but in going through these 2 weeks, I want to also consider the implications of these new ideas, and what does it mean to think this or that, to have this result or that result? What does this view of the universe that we now have, what are the implications of that for us? And individually, I think that at this point in time, with some sort of boundaries, some guidance, we are put in the position that we have to make individual sense of these things, because quite honestly, you don't get any guidance from the scientists at all. You can get whatever guidance you want from the scientists. Actually, you can get scientists speaking on the film What the Bleep, giving you a big spiritual perspective of quantum theory, or you can get a scientist saying it's got no implications at all for spirituality, and it's merely material, still taking a material view of quantum theory. That it's just weirder. It's weirder than before, but it's still matter obeying laws of nature, and that's it. You can get the whole range of views from scientists, and then the interpretation of quantum theory, starting with the Copenhagen interpretation, and then many worlds, and then many other interpretations of quantum theory. It's like there's no consensus. That it's very easy for scientists to simply adopt the interpretation that works, and that's what I did when I was a scientist. I didn't think about it, the implications of quantum theory. I just applied the aspects of the theory I needed to do what I needed to do, and I just picked the most common one, the simplest one, which is the Copenhagen interpretation. It still probably is, but I would say it's losing ground slowly to some others, particularly the multiverse, or the many worlds. Now later this week, what I want to do, and I hope this wind isn't causing too much microphone disturbance, later this week I want to send you a couple of extra readings. And they're going to come from these two books. One is this one, called Infinite Awareness. And it's actually written by a friend of mine who's a neuroscientist at the University of Oregon. And I want to hopefully share, I'm going to photograph, hope she doesn't mind, photocopy a section out of this. This is a book written by a neuroscientist, and it's definitely out beyond the edge of where most scientists would be, but she's still very much a scientist, and so and talking about neuroscience in general. So this section comes out of here should be interesting, because I haven't included that much about neuroscience, although I think it's very significant, because we inevitably have to search for this thing that we're calling consciousness. And then the next one is this book called Quantum Questions by Ken Wilber. And this is a book where I described this in an email. He's collected all the philosophical writings of the early founders of quantum theory: Schrödinger, Heisenberg, Bohr, even Einstein, and others, Sir Arthur Eddington, James Jeans, and a bunch of others. The philosophical writings produces a rather strange conclusion, actually, and I'm going to send you the introduction where he summarizes the whole thing, and that's we can discuss this. This is a very interesting conclusion that he comes to, which is he's representing the conclusion of the early founders of quantum theory, all of whom became mystics, basically. And the question is, why did they become mystics? And then that one is actually, I find I've tried to explain that perspective to people, not done very well. So we'll see how we do here. And so I'm going to send those later in the week when you've had a chance to actually look at what we think quantum theory is and relativity is, sort of head on. And then we'll talk about what the early guys thought were the implications. And clearly these implications were enormous for them, but in a surprising way. So that's what I'd like to do. And I think that's all I wanted to say. I've been loving the discussions, of course, and it's been fantastic. And so we will talk about what the implications are of quantum theory for spirituality. That new age perspective that has come up in conversation, we will talk about that. And this should add some great richness to that view. So, okay, that's all I'm going to do for now, unless I think of something more about it later. Okay, have a good week.